The maid cried outside the Mafia boss's office. One phone call made him lose control. Hello everyone. Before we get started with today's story, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon, so you never miss our latest videos filled with fascinating and unforgettable stories. It only takes a second and it's completely free. But your support means the world to us and is the best way to help this channel continue to grow. Could you tell me where in the world you are watching this video and what time it is? Thank you so much for being here. We wish you and your family happiness, good health, and all the best life has to offer. Now let's begin today's story. Clara's phone vibrated against the silver tray, and her brother's name vanished before she could answer. She stood 3 feet from Adrian's office, one hand wrapped around the tray's cold rim. Behind the walnut door, a man spoke in a low, measured voice. Every sentence ended with the same obedient reply from someone else. Yes, Mr. Vale. The phone buzzed again. This time the screen read unknown. Clara glanced toward the security camera above the brass wall sconce, then slipped into the narrow alcove beside the office. The air smelled of furniture polish and bitter espresso. She answered in a whisper. Noah. First there was only machinery. A deep mechanical groan. Metal striking metal. Then Noah inhaled sharply. Clara, listen. I messed up. His words came too fast, scraping against each other. He had been photographing the old riverfront for a college assignment when 2 black sedans entered the frame. Men exchanged envelopes beside a loading dock. Noah had taken 3 pictures before someone noticed him. Where are you? Clara pressed the phone harder to her ear. I don't know. They covered my eyes. Something shifted near him. A chair leg dragged across concrete. Delete the photographs, Clara said. Tell them you deleted everything. Noah gave a small broken laugh. They already checked my phone. A second voice spoke in the background. Calm. Male. Close enough to make Noah fall silent. Tell your sister what happens if she contacts the police. Clara's fingernails clicked against the tray. Who are you? The line went quiet except for a low electrical hum. Then the stranger answered. Someone who knows where she works. Her eyes lifted to Adrian's closed door. The mansion suddenly felt smaller, the cream marble too bright, the corridor too straight, every camera lens like a dark pupil. Please, she whispered. He didn't understand what he saw. But you understand, the man said. That makes you useful. The call ended. Clara stared at the black screen. She could go to security, but Adrian's guards reported everything. She could call the police, but the warning still rang in her ear. Worse, she knew Adrian's rule. Trouble did not cross his threshold twice. A driver had been dismissed for bringing a family dispute to the gate. A cook had disappeared from the schedule after detectives asked questions about her son. No shouting. No appeal. Just an empty locker by morning. Clara wiped the screen with her apron, erasing fingerprints that were not there. Her paycheck covered Noah's tuition and the rent on their small apartment. Losing the job would destroy the life she had built for him. Staying silent might cost his life. The office door opened. Warm amber light spilled across her shoes. Clara straightened, balancing the untouched espresso while tears burned tracks through the powder beneath her eyes. Adrian filled the doorway in a charcoal suit, one hand still resting on the brass handle. His gaze moved from the trembling cup to her clenched phone. Clara lowered her face before he could read it. Then the phone rang again. She silenced it. Too late. From its speaker just before the sound died, the stranger said one name. Adrian. A thin electronic hiss escaped the phone before the caller spoke again. Behind Adrian, firelight trembled across the office walls, and the espresso cup clicked against its saucer in Clara's unsteady hand. Put it on speaker, Adrian said. Clara's thumb stayed above the screen. The caller gave a quiet laugh. Careful, Adrian. Your maid's brother has already seen more than he should. Something vanished from Adrian's face. Not anger. Recognition. He took the cup from Clara, set it on the marble console, then held out his hand for the phone. She kept it. Who is he? Adrian's eyes remained on the device. Victor Hale. The name landed softly. Yet the 2 guards inside the office straightened as if a gun had been placed on the desk. Victor was the man who stood at Adrian's right hand in every photograph. The man who carried his private keys, knew his routes, and spoke with his authority. "Let me hear Noah," Clara said into the phone. Metal scraped at the other end. A breath followed, young, ragged, unmistakable. "Clara," Noah whispered. Her knees weakened, but Adrian caught her elbow before it struck the console. "I'm here." "Enough," Victor said. "Wait for my instructions." The call ended. Silence pressed against the dark windows. Adrian released Clara and turned toward his men. "Seal the estate." His voice was low again, but the control inside it had sharpened into something colder. One guard reached for his radio. "No vehicles in or out. Collect every staff phone. Cut Victor's access to the cameras, gates, accounts, and security channels." "Sir," the older guard said carefully. "Mr. Hale authorized half tonight's detail." Adrian looked at him. "Then replace half tonight's detail." Footsteps erupted beyond the doorway. Locks engaged through the mansion one after another, each metallic snap echoing down the corridor. Clara watched Adrian dial Victor. The call went unanswered. Once, twice. On the third attempt, Adrian hurled his phone into the stone fireplace. Glass burst against iron, scattering bright fragments across the rug. Every man in the hall stopped moving. Adrian never raised his voice. He never needed to. Tonight, his breathing sounded louder than the flames. "Find every person Hale placed inside this house," he ordered. "Until I know who still answers to me, no one leaves." Then he faced Clara. Ash drifted behind him, silver against the amber light. "You heard what he knows," she said. "I brought this to your door." Adrian crossed the space between them and placed her phone back into her palm. His hand closed around hers just long enough to stop its shaking. "No," he said. "Victor brought it to mine." A radio crackled near the stairs. One of the guards reported that the east gate had stopped responding. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Stay beside me, Clara. You will not face this alone." Outside, floodlights snapped on across the grounds. At that exact moment, her phone began ringing for the third time. Adrian looked at the screen, then at her. "This time," he said, "we answer together." The blue glow of the ringing phone pulsed across Clara's knuckles while the fireplace snapped behind her. On the fourth ring, she moved toward the screen. A guard reached for the device first. Clara pulled it against her chest. "No," the word stopped him. Adrian's gaze shifted from the guard to her. "Take Clara to the secure room," he ordered. 2 people at the door. Cold air swept in from the corridor as the security team moved. Clara stayed planted on the marble. "I'm not being locked away. The east gate is compromised." Adrian's voice had recovered its controlled edge. "Victor knows where you sleep. This isn't a request." "Then you don't get the phone." The ringing stopped. Silence spread beneath the hiss of the fire. Clara slipped the device into her apron pocket and stepped back when Adrian approached. Around them, his men watched a maid deny the man whose orders governed the entire estate. "Victor will call again," she said. "He'll give me instructions because Noah is the only leverage he has. If you hide me, we lose our only line to him." Adrian halted inches away. Heat from the hearth warmed one side of Clara's face. The draft from the breached corridor chilled the other. "You think I'll let him use you? I think you're used to deciding what everyone else can survive." His jaw flexed. "I promised you wouldn't face this alone. Beside me isn't the same as controlling me." Clara took out the phone but kept it locked in her palm. "I'll give you every word he says. Every location. But first, you promise me Noah comes home alive." Adrian glanced toward the dark windows. "That is already my intention." Intentions change when powerful men get angry. Her eyes dropped briefly toward the shattered pieces of his phone near the fireplace. "I heard what Victor did to your house. I saw what it did to you. This cannot become revenge." One guard shifted his weight. Leather creaked in the still room. Adrian dismissed every man with a look, but Clara continued before the doors closed. "No execution. No punishment disguised as a rescue. You bring my brother back without turning him into the reason more people disappear. Victor may not offer that choice. Then make one." The phone vibrated again. This time Clara did not flinch. Adrian looked at the device, then at the woman holding his only path to Victor. His authority could seal gates and empty accounts, but it could not open her hand. You're asking me to surrender the advantage. I'm asking whether your word is stronger than your anger. The vibration rattled against her ringless fingers. Adrian slowly removed the pistol beneath his jacket and placed it on the desk. Metal met walnut with a muted knock. No blood reckoning, he said. Noah comes back alive. That is my word. Clara handed him the phone, but kept her fingers over his as she answered. Victor spoke immediately. Bring Adrian to the riverfront access road. Midnight. No army, or the boy pays for his photograph. The call ended. The mantel clock read 11:18. Clara released Adrian's hand. 42 minutes. Adrian looked at the weapon he had set aside, then summoned only one driver. For the first time that night, the orders were hers. We go together, Clara said. And we do this my way. Cold air swept through the marble foyer as the front doors opened, carrying the smell of rain and wet cedar into the mansion. The black sedan waited beneath the portico, its engine humming. Adrian stopped before they reached it. Get the council on the secure line. His driver hesitated. All of them. Every captain who answers to me. Clara stood beside the rear door. Noah's phone pressed against her palm. Adrian had accepted her conditions. Now he was about to make them expensive. The call connected through the sedan speakers. One by one, 7 voices entered the dark leather cabin while rain drummed against the roof. Adrian remained outside, framed by the amber portico lights. Effective immediately. Victor Hale is suspended from every position in my organization. Silence answered first. Then a captain named Mercer cleared his throat. On whose evidence? Adrian looked at Clara. Not through her. At her. Mine. He opened his tablet and revoked Victor's access to the docks, warehouses, vehicles, and security crews. Each command produced a soft electronic chime. Green accounts turned gray. Route maps went dark. Freeze every company tied to him, Adrian said. No transfers. No favors. No one gives him shelter. Another voice sharpened. Victor has enforced your law for 12 years. You would condemn him over the word of a maid. Clara's fingers tightened around the phone, but she did not step back. Adrian entered the car and closed the door. The cabin became warm, close, scented with leather and the faint smoke clinging to his coat. I heard his voice. Then bring him before the family, Mercer said. Let him answer under our rules. A college student is being held while you debate procedure. That student is not family. Adrian's jaw shifted once. Tonight, he is under my protection. The line erupted. Men spoke over one another. One threatened to withhold his cruise. Another warned that freezing Victor's network would stall riverfront shipments before dawn. A third asked the question no one else dared to shape so plainly. Are you placing this woman above us? Adrian's hand hovered over the final authorization. Approving it would block Victor, but it would also sever access to nearly a third of Adrian's territory. Clara reached across the console and lowered his hand before his thumb touched the screen. You promised Noah, she said quietly. Not me. Don't use my name to hide from the cost. Adrian held her gaze, then moved her hand aside with unexpected care. He pressed authorize. The tablet chimed. Somewhere across the city, Victor's network went silent. My promise is the reason, Adrian told the council. My decision is the law. Mercer's answer came colder than the rain. Not if the family votes before sunrise. The call disconnected. On the dashboard, 6 security districts changed from loyal blue to uncertain amber. The driver looked into the mirror. Sir, if they withdraw support, we lose the riverfront. Adrian watched the colors spread across the map. Then he shut off the screen. Drive. The sedan rolled into the storm, leaving the mansion lights behind. Clara looked at the clock. 11:26. Adrian had 34 minutes to save Noah, and only until sunrise to keep his empire. Rain drummed against the sedan roof, hard enough to blur the riverfront lights into streaks of white and rust. The heater breathed dry leather and engine heat through the cabin, while the clock burned 11:29 on the dashboard. Clara replayed the call from her phone. Victor's warning filled the car, followed by Noah's strained breathing and a low metallic impact. Adrian leaned toward the speaker. Again. The driver turned onto the access road. Clara replayed it, but this time she closed her eyes. A bell sounded twice beneath the static. 3 seconds later came a hydraulic groan. Then the flat crash of compressed steel. Her thumb stopped over the screen. This isn't the riverfront. Adrian studied her face. Victor gave us the access road. Because he wants us looking at the docks. She dragged the map closer, rainwater cold on her cuff. That bell isn't from a ship. It's a railroad crossing. And that machine is a metal press. The driver glanced into the mirror. There are 4 salvage yards near the river. Not that kind of press. Clara enlarged the industrial district west of their position. Rows of abandoned buildings appeared beyond the rail spur. One gray rectangle sat beside a narrow service road. She touched it. Harrow Steel. The name tasted of iron dust and winter mornings. Her father's work jackets used to carry that smell home. Oil, scorched metal, and cold smoke trapped in the seams. Adrian's gaze dropped to the building. It closed 12 years ago. The main floor did. The stamping room still had power when my father left. Separate generator. Freight entrance on the north side. The sedan slowed at the next intersection. Adrian reached for his phone. I'll send a team ahead. Clara caught his wrist. The polished watch beneath her fingers was cold. No army. You gave me your word. I won't walk you into a building Victor controls. Then you won't find Noah. Silence tightened between them, broken by the hiss of tires cutting through standing water. Clara released him and opened the route screen herself. She deleted the riverfront destination. Her finger shook once before she entered Harrow Steel. The public entrance is welded shut. The south corridor collapsed years ago. There's one safe way inside. Through the old employee tunnel beneath the rail loading platform. Adrian watched the new route turn blue. How certain are you? Clara looked through the windshield as a crossing signal flashed red in the rain. The bell rang twice. Exactly twice. Turn west. The driver hesitated until Adrian gave a single nod. The sedan swung away from the river, its tires biting wet asphalt. On the horizon, a broken factory stack rose against the lightning. Clara removed her maid's name badge and placed it in the cup holder. Then she tightened her coat and took the flashlight from the glove box. Adrian reached for it. She kept it. You don't know that tunnel. For the first time that night he followed her lead. At 11:34, the iron gates of Harrow Steel appeared through the storm, and one of them was already open. With 26 minutes left, Clara pointed toward the darkness beneath the tracks. From here you step where I step. Cold air breathed through the employee tunnel, carrying rust, rainwater, and the bitter smell of machine oil. Somewhere beyond the concrete wall, a metal press struck once. The impact trembled beneath Clara's shoes. She lowered the flashlight and guided Adrian under a row of corroded pipes, but a white beam suddenly cut across their path. Stop there, Victor called from the factory floor. Sodium lamps flickered above silent machinery. Noah sat beside an idle hydraulic press, his wrists bound to the arms of a steel chair. His face was pale but alert. Victor stood 10 feet away, holding a phone instead of a weapon. Tell her, he ordered. Noah looked at Clara. I sent the photographs to a reporter before they found me. Every file. She has instructions to publish if I don't call by midnight. Clara's grip tightened around the flashlight. Noah had not remained helpless. He had built his own protection. Adrian stepped into the open, drawing Victor's attention away from both siblings. Release him. Victor smiled and turned his phone around. 6 captains filled the screen of an encrypted conference call. At their center sat Adrian's uncle. Your family has been negotiating without you, Victor said. They want the riverfront, the west warehouses and every crew between them. Transfer command to your uncle, and the boy leaves with his sister. Thunder rolled across the sheet metal roof. Adrian's phone vibrated. Mercer's name glowed on its screen. He answered on speaker. The captains are ready to vote, Mercer warned. If you surrender those districts, you won't control enough territory to stop them. You may never get it back. Victor placed a digital authorization pad on a scarred work table. Or walk away. The reporter publishes your uncle falls with me, and you keep your throne. Noah stays. Clara moved toward her brother, but Adrian raised one hand, not to restrain her, but to hold Victor's focus. Then he crossed the wet floor alone. Each footstep echoed beneath the cranes. Adrian, Clara said. He set his thumb against the authorization pad. A green line scanned his print. You promised no blood reckoning, she reminded him. I remember. This costs more than Victor's network. I know. The screen displayed the transfer. 6 districts, 2 warehouses, the riverfront routes, and operational command over hundreds of men. Adrian pressed confirm. His phone immediately filled with alerts as permissions disappeared one after another. Victor's men untied Noah. Clara ran forward and caught her brother as he stumbled, wrapping his rain-cold hands inside hers. Behind them, Adrian removed the signet ring his captains recognized as authority and left it on the table. Victor picked it up. You just handed your uncle the city. Adrian looked past him at Clara and Noah. No. I paid what your betrayal was worth. A side door opened, releasing them into the rain. But as Clara supported Noah toward the waiting sedan, he pulled a folded photocopy from inside his jacket. A faded Harrow Steel personnel file showed her father's name beside Victor's signature. Clara, Noah whispered, his voice rough. They didn't choose this factory because it was empty. Rain hammered the sedan roof hard enough to blur the silence inside. Under the weak dome light, the photocopy trembled between Noah's scraped fingers, its paper smelling of mildew and machine oil. Clara took it before the water on his sleeve could erase the ink. Her father's personnel number appeared beside a handwritten incident code and Victor Hale's signature. Below it, a date had been circled in red. Adrian saw the date and stopped breathing. You know what this is, Clara said. Not a question. Noah reached beneath his soaked jacket and unfolded the remaining pages across the leather seat. A security statement described an ambush near Harrow Steel 12 years earlier. Adrian's convoy had been redirected into an unlit loading yard. Clara's father, working the late shift, had seen the blocked exit and opened an emergency gate. He pulled Adrian through it seconds before Victor's men sealed the yard. The official report called him an unidentified employee. The attached termination order named him. Victor had signed that too. Clara turned toward Adrian. Passing streetlights cut his face into strips of gold and darkness. My father saved you. Adrian lowered his eyes to the file. Yes. The single word landed beneath the rain. Clara pressed the pages flat against his chest. And Victor made him disappear from every record. Adrian did not defend himself. He reached forward, tapped the partition, and ordered the driver to stop beneath an abandoned overpass. Tires hissed across wet pavement. When the sedan halted, Clara opened the door, but Adrian stepped into the cold rain after her. Noah remained inside, wrapped in a gray emergency blanket. Tell me all of it, Clara said. Water streamed from Adrian's hair onto the collar of his black coat. Your father came to me 3 days after the ambush. He said Victor had arranged it to test whether I could be replaced. Adrian's voice stayed low, stripped of command. I had no proof. You had him. Clara struck the file against his chest. A living witness. I suspected Victor silenced him. Suspected. Her fingers tightened until the wet paper tore along one edge. Adrian took his phone from his pocket, opened a secure archive and placed it in her hand. On the screen was an old surveillance request bearing his authorization. It had been closed 2 weeks after her father vanished. I stopped the investigation, he said. Victor controlled half my captains. Exposing him would have split the organization. Clara stared at the signature, then at the man who had surrendered 6 districts for Noah only minutes ago. So you saved my brother when the price was territory. You abandoned my father when the price was your throne. Adrian's hand fell away from the phone. Clara returned it, climbed into the sedan, and locked the door before he could follow. Drive, she told the driver. The car pulled into the rain, leaving Adrian beneath the overpass without his ring, his districts or her forgiveness. Clara did not look back. On her lap, the torn file waited like a debt no empire could repay. Cold blue light spilled across the mansion's marble floor as every secure phone began ringing at once. Behind the office doors, captains shouted over the low hum of the heating system and the sharp scent of spilled whiskey. Adrian entered without his ring. Mercer stood at the head of the table, 6 district maps glowing on the wall behind him. The family votes in 12 minutes, he said. Withdraw the transfer. Blame Victor's coercion. We can still hold what remains. Adrian laid Clara's father's torn personnel file on the polished wood. Nobody touched it. Open every internal archive, Adrian ordered. Mercer's jaw tightened. To whom? Federal investigators. The district attorney. The reporter Noah contacted. All of them. Chairs scraped backward. One captain called him insane. Another warned that the records would expose accounts, judges, warehouses, and every oath that had kept the organization intact. Adrian walked to the security console and pressed his thumb against the scanner. A green light swept over his skin. That was the point of the throne, he said quietly. It made every crime look necessary. Mercer moved between him and the terminal. You will lose more than control. Once those files leave this house, there is no organization to reclaim. Adrian looked at the empty place where his ring had rested for years. Then he entered the authorization code. Steel shutters rose throughout the mansion with a mechanical roar. Exterior cameras went dark. Vault locks disengaged one after another, their heavy clicks rolling through the walls like distant thunder. The captain's phones lit up as evidence packets reached prosecutors, newsrooms, and law enforcement servers. Adrian named Victor. His uncle. Himself. No excuses. No protection. Mercer stared at the transmission bar until it reached 100%. The vote is over, Adrian said. There is nothing left to inherit. He ordered every employee released with 6 months' pay from his personal accounts, then signed the mansion and remaining legitimate assets into a restitution trust for families harmed under his command. By sunrise, the marble halls stood empty. The air smelled of cold dust and wet stone. Adrian remained alone in the office where Clara had once cried beyond his door, listening as distant sirens climbed the hill. On the desk sat a plain phone, disconnected from every secure line. He wrote Clara's number from memory but did not call. Not yet. Across town, inside a roadside motel room washed in pale morning light, Clara folded Noah's blanket over his sleeping shoulders. Her phone vibrated against the nightstand. A news alert filled the screen. Adrian dismantles own organization, releases evidence, accepts full liability. Before she could touch it, the phone rang again. The number was hidden. Clara watched it tremble across the scratched wood. Then she answered. No voice came through at first. Only Adrian's breathing, and the metallic echo of handcuffs closing around his wrists. A faint hiss crossed the hidden line, followed by the clatter of a gate and the distant wail of sirens. Morning light pressed through the motel curtains in thin gray stripes. Clara tightened one hand around the phone while the other rested on Noah's folded blanket. Why are you calling me? Across town, Adrian stood beneath the mansion's stone portico with his wrists cuffed in front of him. Cold rain darkened his white shirt. 2 federal agents waited beside an idling sedan, its exhaust sharp in the wet air. Because the first call took control away from you, he said. This one gives it back. Clara heard paper slide against metal. Adrian had requested one final supervised call before surrendering his phone. On the table beside him lay a signed statement clearing Noah of involvement in the photographed exchange, along with the remaining Harrow Steel records. Copies had already gone to the reporter and federal investigators. Victor Hale's signature was on every page that mattered. Noah is safe, Adrian said. Your father's name has been restored to the company record. The statement identifies him as the man who saved my life, and identifies me as the man who abandoned the truth. Clara's fingers stopped against the blanket. Behind her, the motel heater clicked and pushed out air that smelled faintly of dust. You think confession makes us even? No, his answer came without pause. Nothing will. One agent opened the sedan's rear door. Adrian looked back at the mansion. The marble steps, the black windows, the rooms once filled with men who obeyed before he finished speaking. Then he removed the last thing the authorities had allowed him to keep, the brass office key. He placed it on the whetstone. The mansion will be sold, he said. The money goes to Noah's legal protection, and to the families harmed by my organization. Not to buy forgiveness. To stop profiting from what I protected. Clara crossed to the window. Dawn silvered the highway and the motel's cracked parking lot. Noah stirred behind her but did not wake. Why didn't you call before the police arrived? She asked. Rain tapped Adrian's shoulders. Because I used to call when I wanted someone moved, silenced, or brought back to me. I needed this call to ask for nothing. The agent touched his elbow. Adrian stepped toward the car on his own. Clara closed her eyes, hearing no command in his breathing now. No threat. Only the rough measure of a man accepting the distance he had earned. Adrian. He stopped. I don't forgive you. His cuffed hands remained still. I know. But when Noah is stronger, I'll tell him what you did this morning. All of it. The door waited open beside him. That is more mercy than I deserve. It isn't mercy, Clara said. It's the truth. My father should have had it. Now everyone will. She ended the call before he could answer. The line went silent, but this silence belonged to her. Adrian entered the sedan, leaving the key behind as the gates closed for the last time. Once a maid's tears outside his office had made him lose control. In the end, her voice taught him how to surrender it.